synthetic monorepos for non-AI native apps. We have some new data on the state of tech hiring, and Deno Desktop is taking on Electron. It's front-end fire. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm Jack Carrington. I am your host du jour, and with me are my good friends, Paige Niederinghouse.
Hey, everybody.
And live from Fire Festival, TJ Van Tol.
Uh, I am here. I am in Boston. I just for everybody, I'm gonna apologize up top. I pride myself on recording with good video quality and good audio quality, and I take reasonable precautions to ensure that I continue to do so. But sometimes the universe conspires against me, and when you go to record in your hotel room, they decide to hold a fan festival for the World Cup game that's in your hotel room, but it's the only time you can record. And so they're blaring music. So I have no idea what this is gonna turn out like. But we're making it work.
I am
right.
requiring you to go downstairs and go to this festival once this is over and just get rip roaring drunk.
I'll get you at the very least. I'll get some pictures from up here so you can see what I'm seeing. So
love it. Well, we got a lot of news this week, a lot of good stuff. So let's get into it. Paige, what is a synthetic monorepo?
It is exactly what it sounds like when you think about it. So this is from the folks at NX who make Narwhal, or they might actually be owned by Narwhal.
I think they are Narwhal. Yeah. And then NX is a thing.
They're like the biggest monorepo company proponents out there. I think they might not have started it, but they've kind of owned that space for a good many years now.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing that they have thought about, which actually makes a ton of sense when I think about it and kind of like read about it, is that they've created a thing called Polygraph. And they describe it as a meta harness that gives agents visibility across every repo. So if you think about the way that we built repos and projects until basically the last year or two, they were probably microservice driven. So you had 15 little services all doing things from the back end and then sending them to your front end. And because of that, your agent, if you're working in one of those repos, doesn't necessarily have any of the context of how it interacts with the other repos. And what they're trying to do is basically create a tool that will give you a unified dependency graph that your agent is completely aware of, so it can see all the other repos that contribute to this one application. And then it can orchestrate PRs across it. So if it realizes that what it's doing in one is also going to have downstream effects in another, it can do PRs for both. It can see the CI runs. So if you're using all the CI/CD that a lot of us do, GitHub Actions and so forth. And the other thing that's really interesting about it is that it records every agent session so that devs can resume, reference, or build on work that was done by anyone on any machine, and even with a different agent. So it's a really interesting idea, and I think it makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah, they're going hard on this polygraph thing. It's like the next thing for them. So they're kind of all in on it. And
you can try it out
conference
right now. Yeah. So you can try it out right now. It's free because they want beta testers and they want people to just start using it. I'm sure they say they will give you 30 days notice before they change the pricing on you. So you have 30 days to freak out and try and find more money when they eventually do turn this into a paid product and service. But for now, it's completely free to try.
That's fantastic.
So one thing I've been doing a lot recently is I've been running. So I mostly still use Claude and Claude Code for day-to-day development such. And I've started running Claude in a parent folder of the repos that I work in. So it's like a poor man's mono repo, right? You're just a folder that has like all your other folders. Mm-hmm. And it's because I'm looking for some of this stuff. Sometimes I am working in one repo, but in most companies, there's some relation between the different projects, and sometimes you need to know info from those. But I find just running Claude in a parent folder has solved most of my issues. So but I can see how some of this extra tooling, because it's not, Claude for me isn't quite smart enough to do multiple PRs at the same time or to do some of this
Hmm.
sharing stuff across team members. So
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting idea.
The thing that because I've done exactly what you've done, TJ. I've got all my folders, and then I've got like the parent that has 3 or 4 projects that are related to each other inside. The only thing that I've found, and I could probably fix this just by adding a .claude file or something, is that Claude doesn't get the context of the skills and the repo specifics that you would when you open a session inside of a folder that has Claude set up in it. So it doesn't get that by default, but as long as you can kind of point Claude towards where those folders are or where those files are, I think it can probably, it's smart enough at this point to kind of figure it out.
Cool. Yeah. This is a huge problem, especially at like really big companies, known as at Nike and at Walmart. You'd had all kind of the throw it over the wall thing between the microservice folks and the UI folks. And then there was a whole bunch of, other teams that were creating component libraries and stuff like that. And so having a single change could be spread across multiple teams and getting all that coordinated was a huge problem. So
Yeah.
things like SourceGraph or now Polygraph, I think, are invaluable tools at that level of scale.
It's also a logical progression for NX. They're the monorepo people, so now this is what makes sense for them to be building in an AI world.
Yeah. I would really like to know or if there is an upper bound for this being useful, because I've worked at companies where we had 16 or 17 little microservices backing one UI app. And is there a limit where even this, Polygraph can't handle all the microservices that are all related to your application?
Yeah, at some point, context window starts to become an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how they implement it, right? If it's more like on demand, that kind of thing. I would imagine it would be on demand. Otherwise, your context window would just be like you'd fire up Claude Code and it was like 90% used already, and you're like, wait, I haven't even asked you anything yet. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
My guess is that actually probably the other problem is that like there's a lower bound to when it starts to be useful. When it's just easier to do what TJ was doing, which is just like have a freaking directory full of, the 10 projects or whatever.
With your 3 related projects in there.
Exactly.
Probably so.
All right. So, Deno Desktop. So, Deno is back in the news. They have, kind of unexpectedly to me at least, I hadn't heard anything about this, decided to go take on Electron. Kind of,
this came out of left field. I don't, yeah.
All right, cool. I actually did play with it. I got Deno Desktop to run a TanStack app. It was actually very easy. And that seems to be the sweet spot for this, is going and taking an existing web app POC type deal that needs access to some local resources and just wiring those in. So it gives you access through the API to things like native menus, native FS, a couple of the Mac OS dock. It's not Windows compatible yet, so there's that. It's still very canary, very early days. But I'd say it's definitely does not have the full Electron like ecosystem around it and all the compatibility and everything. But they are going in some interesting directions with it. They want to have it so they can create mobile apps, which I thought was kind of an interesting choice. But definitely, if you've got, a spa or even like a multi-route app, like a TanStack Start app, it's not that difficult to go and make this another build target for Deno, which is gotta say, pretty cool. And it's got all the Deno security system stuff baked into it. So it's cool.
I really don't understand what they're doing here, though. It's some cool tech. I from that perspective, I'm never going to tell people it's bad for building cool stuff that makes our lives better. But Deno the business doesn't make any sense to me. We know they did some layoffs recently. The one thing they did have going is their kind of security stuff, their agentic stuff, Deno deploy, all that sort of thing. And maybe there's going to be a play for this somehow into that. Otherwise, I don't really know what they're doing with this. I mean, cool, but from a business sense, I just don't get it.
I mean, is anybody focusing nowadays on building mobile apps? Haven't we just gone completely past that point at this stage and we're just building progressive web apps and, if we need to?
Well, mobile apps for sure. People are still building those for sure. But yeah, the desktop app market is kind of weird. Although I wonder if they're getting the kind of folks that are using Deno at scale are also just requesting from them that they have this ability to go and create desktop apps based on their existing code, because they have the internal apps that they want to go and build using Deno. And I think that's the sweet spot for this kind of thing, is like your charting application or your dashboard or something like that, where you're not really doing a whole lot of native integration, but you do need enough native integration to actually, do some interesting stuff with it. Yeah, it's an odd niche. I'll give you that. It's like, whoa, wow. Again, it kind of came out of nowhere, and it's like, maybe somebody's asking for this, or maybe it was somebody on the weekend who's like, hey, I just Claude Coded this up, and they're like, hey, okay,
That's exactly what I was
going to
say. I wonder if it's just that. Like, I mean, you have open source tools. There's like Tori and Electron and these things that are open source that we're in an era where you can point your AI tool at the open source tools that already do this and say, hey, make our JavaScript runtime do this. And maybe the engineering lift just really isn't all that big. So why not put it out there?
Yeah. It's an interesting comparison chart. Actually, I had Claude write up a comparison chart between like Tauri and Deoxys. I've never heard of Deoxys before, but
never even heard of that one.
Is another one. But there's Electron, which we know about. Everything, like anything, your VS Code, all sorts of all runs on Electron. Electro Bun, which I guess you can figure out where that one came from with the bun. And then, of course, now Deno Desktop. And those are the ones that run. Everything else is going to run Rust. But these are the ones that run JS and TS. So if you're looking for the JS TS ecosystem, like this is a new player in that space. That's pretty cool. Yeah. There you go.
Interesting move, Deno team.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about interesting moves on tech hiring. How's that going?
Well, there's another report that just came out that caught my eye from this company called SignalFire. So they put out a report that they call the State of Talent Report for 2026. So I'll caveat all of this with SignalFire is an AI startup, and these results are from their AI platform. So, of course, you should take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt here. They do claim that their AI tool is tracking 650 million employees across 80 million companies, but through AI, through whatever it is they're doing with this, they don't publish a lot on their methodology. But this is kind of their sweet spot, so there is at least some reason to believe that the data they have on this is directionally correct, and they're looking at LinkedIn and things like that to help drive their platform. But I thought the headlines for this were kind of interesting. So, and they also seem anecdotally kind of at least directionally correct also. So they say that hiring at large tech companies is running 25% below the 2019 baseline that they're using, which is the lowest level they've measured since the 2023 drop where a lot of tech layoffs took place. So hiring is lower at the big tech companies. But interestingly, I think the one unique thing they found from this is that this quote AI apocalypse in the tech market is most heavily impacting designers, marketing, and product people, while engineers were amongst the least impacted. So they say that software engineers now account for 55% of all hiring at these tech companies, which is up from 46% in 2019. So hiring overall is down, but because engineering is taking a larger share of that hiring, engineers are getting hired at about the same rate. And it's all the other people at the tech companies that are actually the ones that are getting kind of let go as part of this, AI shift in hiring.
Mm-hmm. That tracks. That sounds right.
That's why I give this some credence, because I've seen this firsthand at a couple of companies I know, friends and stuff like that as well. Whereas
Same.
the engineering jobs are the same, and the engineers are kind of getting tasked to do more, and the people that are kind of in engineering supplemental roles are the ones that on the on the fringes are the
Hmm.
ones that are getting let go.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've seen
Well,
the same thing. Marketing, dev, even DevRel a little bit. But yeah, we're hiring engineers while not necessarily hiring for other roles, or using like outside contractors for just additional writing work and blog posts and stuff like that.
yeah, interesting. I haven't seen this. We were looking for product people at Netlify, so and we weren't getting rid of any. So there's that. But yeah, okay. And yeah, I gotta say that it's an interesting result, and I yeah, I because I just don't have the same anecdotes as you guys do on that one.
I'm curious though, TJ, did this talk about like what level or years of experience they were hiring engineers for? Because I've still heard that that junior engineer hiring is way down, whereas
Yeah.
seniors and above are doing all right.
Well, you almost perfectly set that up, because the second finding from this study I was going to talk about. So, to quote from this, new graduate slash entry level hiring has collapsed further. So it's down to roughly 65% of the hiring at the major tech companies, or it's down 65% from where it was at the major tech companies, and it's down 76% at early stage startups compared to 2019. So basically, for the just to take the startup one of that, compared to 2019, startups are hiring 76% fewer new graduates slash entry level engineers, which is also anecdotally similar to what I'm seeing. We're, for better or worse, we at Blues are not hiring new people. We're hiring experienced people, and I get that sense from the industry as well. And I don't love that. And I don't really know what that means for the future yet. But it makes sense from an employer's point of view. But I mean, it makes sense in the short term. But obviously, we've got a big long term problem as an industry on our hands.
Yeah. I mean, this one I anecdotally absolutely concur with. Everybody that I know who's at the junior level is like, yeah, can't get a job on that at all.
Hmm.
But yeah, and I think where it's going to go. I think it's actually. I mean, it's patently obvious they were going to have this big gap in developers between the folks that are still in the industry and are getting experience are going to keep their jobs, but we're going to have this massive gap. It's just not good. And with the software quality dropping at the rate that it is, ugh, this is like the Titanic.
We just had a big engineering offsite. That's why I'm in Boston, to meet with the full engineering organization at Blues. And one of our conclusions was that it still very much requires, we're moving into where AI is, or even software development in general, is more of an architectural skill. And what we found is that that skill set that's born from years of building software is still incredibly important when it comes to
Hmm.
managing these agents, to determining, reviewing code, pushing things out, coming up with workflows. And so that skill set, even if our individual syntax almost doesn't matter anymore, the skill set of being an engineer is, if anything, more important than ever. But we've learned that by living in the trenches for
Right.
decades. And I mean, at some point, people are going to figure this out. I always believe in the next generation. I think the kids are motivated; they'll figure this stuff out. But they're going to learn in such a different world than we learned in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's no other way to say it. Like the experience that we got was hard won, and I think that's why it sticks. And if you're not bleeding for your code, which is essentially what all of us have done at one point or other, I don't know how well those lessons are going to be imparted, or if they're going to be imparted the same.
They won't be the same, but I mean, I believe kids are smart. They'll figure this stuff out. It's just going to be a totally different path to it than anything that we know.
Yeah, that reminds me, I don't know if either of you got it, but there was the Stack Overflow surveys out right now for anybody who feels like weighing in on how they use Stack Overflow as a developer. And I can honestly say I have not probably looked at Stack Overflow this year or within the last 12 months. So I don't know if I would even qualify or if I should bother to take it.
Yeah, we've covered it a couple times on this show, and they always ask the question, how much have you used Stack Overflow? And I think last year they kind of hid the answer to that question a little bit because it's not in their best interest to publicize the results all that much. And I think last year I put that I was still occasionally doing Google searches and finding myself there. And I think at least since the Opus revolution last, November or whatever, I can't remember going to Stack Overflow a single time.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to make it or what they're going to do, honestly.
By the way, back to the designers thing for a second. So if you really believe that designers are going to make a big comeback, by the way, then you might want to take a look at Figma, because Figma, the stock price is off by 83% over the year. 83%.
SaaSpocalypse, baby.
Yeah.
That's
Woof.
And they
Ouch.
couldn't be bought last year because it would have created too much of a monopoly.
Yeah.
Because Adobe was the one who was going to buy them
And
for
Adobe's
so
up
much money.
5% today. So,
I think that part of this is designers are still incredibly useful. I think the reason you're seeing numbers go down, though, is because a lot of the entry-level design stuff is totally eaten up by AI. And in fact, now for my stuff working as DevRel, I've reached the point where now my YouTube thumbnails or YouTube banners thumbnails, those are AI done. My blog banners are done with AI. When I do quick images or icons, I do those with AI. I still will need occasionally reach out to a designer for something important or custom, but the number of times I need it has went down. And so I think when you need design things less because you're using other tools, that's inevitably going to mean fewer people also.
Yeah. And you need UX. I mean, you need people who can actually architect, an experience from front to back on a serious experience. So, yeah, that's that kind of thing, right? You need folks that are at the architectural level, not so much at the bits and bytes of the, what CSS should we use?
Yeah. I think that the writing and the design, though, it feels fuzzier and it doesn't need as strict guidelines as it does for code. Because if code's written wrong, it just doesn't work. And that's it. Like hard stop, does not compile 404 on the page. But words, designs, images, those don't have to be so perfectly aligned or correct or whatever. You can have 6 toes on that person, or you can spell that word wrong and so everybody still knows what the context of it is. So I think I wonder if that's why, is because the bar is different for what we would consider softer skills like those, even though they're not soft in the way that we think about them traditionally. But whereas code is like it either is written correctly and the syntax is right and it works, or it just doesn't. And then somebody has to figure out why. So maybe that's another part of it.
Yeah, it's everything that's easy is being automated. That's why junior tasks are easy, so they're not happening. Entry-level design tasks are easy, so we're not hiring for that either. And we'll see where this ends up going.
Yeah.
Nowhere good. I was wrong, by the way. Adobe is also off by not 83%, but off by 47%. It's 5 up on the day. Oof. But off by 47 a year over year.
47%.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. I mean, if you bit of a haircut at Adobe there. Okay. Well, do we have any lightning news?
We do.
All right, let's go for it. Okay, who's up?
All right. First bit of lightning news. Our favorite reactor, Dan Abramov, has announced that he has joined a new company. He is going to Vercel, which should not really surprise anyone if you know how long Dan has worked with the React code base, that he would go to the largest framework that is using React now. So we don't have too many details or specifics. It was just a post on Blue Sky. He worked for Blue Sky for quite a while and then finally took a break. He left Meta, immediately started working at Blue Sky, even though he said he was going to take some time off and just enjoy life. Now he took some time off and he's back at Vercel, and it sounds like he's also moving to Japan and then going to work from there on Vercel. So,
well, that's cool. I hadn't heard that part of it. I did look at his posts, and the one thing that kind of stuck out to me was that he enjoyed he was an admirer of the fractal programming model of Next.js.
I don't know what that means.
Any ideas on fractal programming model? Okay, so I talked to my buddy Claude about the fractal programming model. And the fractal programming model is that the architecture looks the same at the micro level as it does at the macro level. Okay. It's kind of fuzzy, right? Yeah. Anyway, he's a fan of how the app router apparently is the same at the high level as it is at the low level. And I don't know. I disagree, actually, on that. But that's my personal thing. Maybe I'll do a video on it.
Yeah, it's that Claude's description didn't help me all that much. I'm not.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Very
smart.
I guess I just can't see the matrix in this case.
Yeah, Dan's operating on a different level than the rest of us, so I will take his word for it.
Yeah.
But I'm an Next.js user. If he helps make Next better, I'm here for it.
Sure.
We'll get you over to Tanstack. All right. More lightning news?
More lightning news. So this was something that I discovered today, and I'm not sure if it's available for all Claude Code users or not, but when I opened a new session in Claude, it asked me if I wanted to use my mouse. I can now use my mouse inside of the terminal to click the yes button when it asks me to approve a command, or move my mouse to a different spot when I realize I've typed a bunch of stuff that I didn't need to, or I want to delete it. So, it's really weird. I don't know how it's working, honestly, because it's still inside of a regular Warp terminal. But yeah, now I can mouse around and I can approve things with my mouse, which I don't know if it's really faster than hitting enter on my keyboard, but it's available now. So interesting.
Clicking arbitrarily in a text area from the terminal is really, really nice, because that's the one thing as a big terminal power user, that's the one that always gets me. There's like the Control A, Control E, there's ways to move around by word, but sometimes you really just want to put your mouse right there in the middle. So
yeah. And that was a big thing for me when I started using Warp Terminal, was I loved that you could actually click and highlight and like copy paste things and stuff like that. But once you enter the Claude Code session, all those things disappeared. So it didn't really make a difference. So now you can again.
Jack, why are you shaking your head?
Because it's what point is it just like, hey, there's all this stuff that's around my terminal, all these icons and menus, and, buttons and stuff. And it's like, that's a GUI, man. Like, we graduated from text UIs to GUIs in 1992, 1984. Like, what are we doing? Like, at what point is your TUI becoming a GUI again? I don't know.
It's mixing the best of both worlds. Sometimes you want something. GUIs go too far. If you used Eclipse, like there's a point at which it falls apart. You got to find the sweet spot.
Jeez. All right. By the way, I used to work on an Eclipse-based app back in the day. Very, very well architected framework, but it was clunky. You just go
on the app
Eclipse
itself, because I've used Eclipse-based apps, but I've not been worked on the app itself.
I've not worked. Well, no, there's the Eclipse core. I did not work on that, but we built Flexibility 3 on top of the of that core,
the Eclipse shell,
the Eclipse shell, to go and give it all the editors and all that kind of stuff. You get that for free, basically. So now you're just dealing with putting in the native windows and things. Yeah.
problem with Eclipse was Eclipse itself. I mean, there's a reason Eclipse was so successful. It did a lot of cool things. The problem was a lot of people built a lot of bad things on top of the Eclipse shell, and I think that's why it gets a bad rap. And I used one of those bad things that was built by no choice of my
Flex
own for
Builder
several
3.
years. No, I built some. So IBM went ham building stuff on top of Eclipse,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I had to use a bunch of those IBM tools for many, many years, and that was not a good experience.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So if I can use my mouse in Claude Code, I'm taking that as a win.
All right, fine. Yes. That in comparison is not that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
we'll
I have
see
a
where
little
it goes
light
from
news.
here.
Yeah. Well, Astro 7 is out. It's primarily a performance upgrade. There's some changes to the APIs, and that's kind of why you get the major release. But yeah, it's a big performance upgrade. So if you're an Astro user, go check out. You probably know already, but Astro 7 was just released.
Nice.
All right. Let's talk about what's making us happy. Well, TJ, we know what's annoying you, but what's making you happy?
So what's making me happy this week might make Paige a little sad, actually. So
Oh.
I am in Boston for work reasons, and we have a yearly pilgrimage we make on this trip to go play shuffleboard at the Double Bull in Boston. It's become a very weird tradition, but shuffleboard is such an amazing game. So for those of you that are not familiar, there's shuffleboard that you can play like cruise ship style, where you're like pushing things around on the floor. The bar version of shuffleboard is played on a long rectangular sort of metal table
With little beads on it.
Little like beads of sand on it, and then you push these little like metal discs across it, and you try to get them close to the end without going over. And I think it's such a fun game because it's very friendly to beginners. You can just show up with anybody and anybody can figure it out. You play a round or two and anybody can be halfway decent at it. There is some skill, and it's just fun to play in a large group too, because if you have 10 or 12 people, you can pair up and play a few games, and it's a lot of fun. So we did that last night, and I was reminded of how fun that was, and was a little sad that Paige was not there because she had been with us on a couple of those previous trips, but we still had some fun.
Good times.
Excellent
Everybody talks
drunk bar game.
trash. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. You have one good game, you're convinced you get to like throw down
You're
with your
the best.
coworkers.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And Boston's also making me fun. It's been fun to be here while the World Cup is going on, because I went across Boston from my work hotel, and because I'm staying here for an extra few days, and Norway and France are playing, so I'm seeing Norwegian and French jerseys and stuff all the time. And as I mentioned, my audio is getting ruined by this fan festival that's happening across the street. But hey, it's fun to look out the window and get to see some cool stuff. France is destroying Norway right now because Norway's not. Well, Norway's not. Get offshoot. Norway decided not to play any of their best players. Interestingly, because
are they already through on their group?
They're already through, but France is already through as well, and one of them is playing all their best players, and one of them is not. It's kind of a weird situation, but it's making for a boring game.
I bet.
Yeah. It's varsity versus JV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. All right, Paige, what's making you happy?
All right, the Dungeon Crawler Carl series is making me happy.
Oh,
I took the plunge.
Yeah, I love it. Yes. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so I read the first book. I tore through the first book, I should say. It was very fun to read. I really enjoyed it thoroughly. I already have the second one lined up and ready to go. I just haven't gotten to it yet because I decided to take a break and read something else in between. But also, in addition to reading the book, it was just recently announced that the TV series has been greenlit. So if anybody was concerned that Dungeon Crawler Carl was not in the media enough on the audio books and the podcasts and the regular books, now there will be the accompanying TV series to bring it all to life. So stay tuned.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a lone holdout here. I should definitely get into it.
You should.
Yeah, it's just a fun time, and I think you'll know within a couple hundred pages. Pretty quick whether it's your sort of thing or not. So
I think what we'll do is we want to go down to Sisters and Bend, which is like a 3-hour drive basically, and we've got my aunt has a house down there, so we use that, and so we always pick some book. And one time we did Project Hail Mary. It's fantastic. So I will say Dungeon Crawler Carl, and we'll give it a
There
go.
you go.
And say I'm sure it's
Excellent.
great. I mean, it's so
Audiobook is fantastic, so
Yeah.
it'll be good.
Yeah, awesome. Well, what's making me happy this week is bird nests, or a bird nest. Kind of weird, but so we had all these like camera, we have security cameras on the outside of the house, as people do, and they were all like batteries, like one of those kind of like janky battery systems kind of stuff. It's like always running out. My wife's like, hey, you got to go change the batteries or whatever. So I finally decided I'm going to get good with this and just make it permanent. And so I got these Real-Link cameras that are power over Ethernet. And so I was running, I was running these Ethernet cables around, the perimeter of the house and whatnot. And I pinned them up so that they looked halfway decent. And now I got paint I got to put over it and stuff. But what happened was, like right above my garage, there's a camera. And then right behind it, I kind of left a little bit of a spool of this plenum. And the next thing I know, my wife's like, you got a problem. I'm like, what? She's like, you can't move that now. And I looked at it, and a bird had built a nest in the middle of the plenum. Is the coolest thing. They like added on like mud and twigs and stuff. And so I've got my camera in the garage now so that I can try and take pictures of the birds. But she's like, we got to leave it. They're going to go in those. She's got to train those birds. She's got to feed those birds. So, we think it's like a song sparrow. So yeah, very cute. Really.
So I just learned about this because apparently I have multiple coworkers who are birders, but if there's an app called the Merlin app, Merlin, and you can use it and it identifies bird calls. I think it's an open source app from Yale or something, Harvard maybe. But yeah, you just open it up and it will identify all the bird calls that are happening around you in the real world. So you could hold it up to the nest and see what it is.
Oh, nice. They do not like that. They do not want to be contacted. They're good. Like, it's funny. Like my wife has one of those for sure. I don't know if it's that one, but we were playing around with that, and we were just out on the front patio, and there were some song sparrows like doing a little song thing, and it identified them. And then it had all kinds of like different calls of song sparrows from different regions, and we started playing them, out, and we would get responses, and we're like, oh, that's fun, that's cool. Turns out, no, do not do that. Like you're messing with nature. Those are wild birds. They got their thing going on. Don't mess with those guys. So just FYI. But there's also another excellent app called Seek. I don't know if you heard about this, but it is a local AI app that brings in a local model. You take it to like when you're going to, a park or gardens or stuff, and you literally just like point it at it, and it's like, this is bluebell, blah 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 blah. And so we do that all the time, and
nice.
It tells you whether it's poisonous for dogs and all that good stuff. So
good to know.
Free, totally free. It was like one of those like Smithsonian, like back when we had. Yeah. Anyway,
apps for fun and not for subscriptions.
Yeah, back when exactly. We had people that wanted to go and make a better society. Anyway, this has been a fun episode. So lots of good stuff to be happy about. Lots of new news out there, and yeah. Well, if you have any questions or comments, be sure to join us over on our Discord server. We have a chat channel on there specifically for SignalFire. Tell your friends, subscribe today. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Yep.
Yeah. See everybody.